Right, folks, top of the hour. People are slowly trickling in on this Friday morning. We were wondering whether everybody had been scared away by Lee's topic of money, but it looks like the stout of heart are joining us this morning. So fantastic morning and welcome to everybody. And yeah, I think just pop across to Lee and find out what money is all about. So Lee, talk to us about money.
Morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you this morning. And thanks to Paul for this subject. It was sort of raised by Jasper when we spoke about values, saying that he recognized that when people started talking about money or their reactions to money or in relation to money had a lot to do with their beliefs about money and then connecting into values. And that sort of prompted me to think about, well, that's actually a good topic. And it's something that the Wisdoms program actually, we're sort of leaning in that direction. The Wisdoms program starts with attitude, then it goes to initiative, and initiative is all to do with our understanding and relation and focus on money. And so it seemed to fall in place. And then in Paul's story, it often came back to our understanding and our dealing with money. So that's where the prompting of today's topic came from. And it made me think about, so what was my first, Sue Osmond asks, your relationship with money often has to do with your first memory of money. And so I read that book many years ago. I can't remember. I should have looked it up before I came on. But it made me think about, well, what is my first money memory? And it's actually of my mom sitting there with her purse. She would have been doing some budgeting on a piece of paper or paying bills or putting, in those days there was no computer or anything, so she would have been writing out checks or looking at bills, and then she would take out 2 cents from her purse. This is in Zimbabwe. And she would take out 2 cents and she would say to us, well, this is between us and starvation. And I knew she was joking, but I knew she wasn't. I was the oldest of 5 children. And so I took this on board quite seriously. And it feels to me like before I could even really think clearly, money was always something I had to worry about. And so that trailed my whole life. When you have that in you from an early age. But I also recognized that I needed to change my thinking about money, especially when I looked at my mom's generation, my grandparents' generation, and I saw a pattern over. So my mom's side of the family in particular, we're like 6th or 7th generation here in South Africa. So we have a long history of being able to see what's happened in our life story. And generation after generation, the older generation have needed to be looked after. They haven't been able to accrue enough financial reserves to be able to look after themselves. And for me, I wanted to change. I just felt I wanted to change that cycle. To say, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be the person that my children end up looking after. I want to be, and this may be where my pride comes in, but I want to be the person who looks after, who wants to provide. I don't want to be the one who is provided for. And so that meant that I really needed to think very, very carefully about my relationship with money and how I dealt with it. So I just raised those 2 things, an early money memory and how some of that's changed, just to maybe stimulate and to trigger some thoughts and some ideas. So I hand it over to whoever would like to whatever's, you know, maybe there's something immediately that comes to mind. And so maybe put your hand up if there's something you would like to share.
Right, okay, Luther, let's come straight across to you and then we'll go to Herman.
Thank you for that. 3 points I would like to make. One is, I was still part of the sandwich generation. You have to look after your parents and you have to raise your kids. And that is a big stumbling block for your economic growth. The first point. The second point is, money is the personal Achilles heel, as sales is Achilles heel to business person. Similar type of notion. You have a kind of a fear of doing that. That's essential for loving this thing, because it's required, and learning how to deal with it. As the saying says, we all are a cup to hold your wealth, but the cup is limited in size. The first thing you must do to be able to hold wealth is to increase the capacity of your cup. Otherwise, everything, that's why it's the notion, whoever wins the lotto, within a very low percentage of them remain rich. They just go overboard and all their cup overflows, and soon the cup is empty again. And then to understand and have this relationship and knowing what it is, having flow, knowing to hoard money. I would not say it's criminal, but you're doing yourself a major injustice. You need to receive and you need to give. And money is energy. Money must flow. Money must energize. And if you're not part of the flow circle, you're going to have a short. You're going to have a shock. And you will have a fall down. Maybe just a few thoughts to kick off the discussion.
Great, thanks, Luther. Herman, let's come across to you.
Well, as the only German amongst the crowd here, I found the subject being put forward on the 8th of May quite appropriate. As you know, this was when the Second World War came to an end. And for me as a German and as a child at that time, money in Germany had no value. You couldn't buy anything for money, particularly the day the war ended. Our main currencies were cigarettes, wine, and other like commodities that you needed to have available in order to barter. Even for example, my mom worked on a farm in the fields. Even there, she didn't receive money. She received X number of eggs, potatoes, or what have you. So for me, that experience has actually created for many, many years a scarcity mentality. And also, I had never had pocket money. The first time I got pocket money was when I became an apprentice at the age of 14. And I got 1 Deutschmark pocket money a week. Now, if you tell that a youngster today, they will laugh themselves silly because, anyway, what I did also for today's session, I looked a little bit at the history of money and what really money is for. There are only 3 functions as far as money is concerned. It's a medium of exchange, a unit of account. In other words, it's a common measure of value, and it's a store of value. And the latter is something that concerns me a little bit. Because banks are in a position to create money virtually out of nothing, we have created a completely disconnect between the financial economy and the real economy. And I cited that example once before. And what I'm trying to get at is that if you take international trade with a value of X, the money in circulation, which should cover that trade, is 100 times the amount of the trade that is being used as a basis. I think, if I remember correctly, the money in circulation compared to the value of the goods that is being traded internationally, the goods represent about 2% or slightly less than compared to the total money in circulation. And that's something where I think the present generation needs to start working at, because the future generations are going to pay for that. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Herman. I think we must be back at the end of hopefully World War III, because I think cigarettes and wine are probably good trading commodities today as well. So we can see some of the smokers watching out for the drinkers as well. So yeah, great. Let's pop across to Mpho.
Okay. Oh, I thought I told my story, but I'm listening to Herman speak, and Luther, what you were saying, and this could be just a generalization, but it's just an observation from the way I grew up. That I don't know if it's money per se, but in my community it was about the material possessions. You know, for us Black people, we had to see that you have money. And I see that with white people, it's not so much that, because I've met a lot of wealthy white people and you'd never see it, you know. With us, it's got to be visible. You got to have stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. That's my comment.
Thanks, Mpho. I think, yeah, that's one of the challenges of what they call the aspirational societies. So the people who have to show their wealth through the visibility of the as you say, their stuff. It's an interesting concept, and I don't think it's specifically only stuck with the Black communities. I think there are lots of other communities that have the same challenges. So let's go across to Solomon.
Yeah, interesting topic. So I really personally took quite a bit of a long time, just really focusing on being serious about the whole thing of having a strong relationship with money, because I quite carried a lot of responsibility at a young age, whereby dad was not home most of the time. Even if when he came back, you actually really never seen what he was doing with money. So I really was using money, making sure we've got food, you know, from about 13, 14 years old. So I took a long time, and this is like a skill that I know I'm still learning to hone at the moment. Yeah, that's my comment.
Great, thanks, Solomon. Let's pop across to Jasper. Jasper, are you with us?
Sorry, I have a two-way conversation with my wife here at the background as well. And when she speaks, I only have ears for her.
As long as it wasn't about money, you're all right. So,
well, she's my source of money, so when she speaks, I have to listen. No, but I think when Lee posed that topic yesterday to say, what was your earliest experience of money? What came up in me is I was probably in, what's the old standard one, grade 3, I think. We, as a family, so that was the first time I was introduced to pocket money. And so we were called into the room to say, this is your pocket money, and this must now last you. And out of this, whatever you want to buy, you know, that's it. If the money is finished, it's finished. And it was 25 cents. And we had a cafe about 2 blocks away from us. I couldn't run fast enough to that cafe and stock up on Knicker balls, Wilson toffees, and I think Mint Imperials was also a big favorite of mine, so it can last. But it was like seconds. Then the 25 cents was gone, and after since I had the sweets all at once, it didn't last too many days, and it was a long month, and I started to realize the value of. So that was a good thing my parents did to start showing me that you know, it's in your hands. What are you doing with the money? And at an early age, I think I was in standard 6, I started to work at OK Bazaars and stuff like that because I hated the fact that I have to ask other people for things. So I wanted to earn my own money. So I think since that time, where I have money, it's okay for me not to have to spend it all, but to find ways to, even little money, how to invest it. And I'm still constantly in that process. So I think it's very important how your parents, like the story of Lee, how her mother would take 2 cents out of her purse and put it away. So if children can see what parents do, but then you also make children responsible for their choices of handling money, we will not have this bunch of entitlement kids that are running around there that want to spend it on brand clothes. So that's my contribution, is let people just become familiar with the value of money as fast as possible.
Right, thanks, Jasper. Let's pop across to one of our financial wizards, Stella.
Morning, everybody. Okay, so my first memory when Lee talked about money, my first memory is when I was in grade 1. At those, we also didn't get any pocket money when we were little, but I remember one day my dad gave me a 1 rand note. Those days you still got 1 rand in notes. And he said to me, I can go buy me something at the tuck shop at school. So that was the first day that I could actually myself buy something. And I went to the tuck shop and I said, I want chips. And I gave them the 1 rand note. And the lady asked me, how many I want. So I said, I want for 1 rand. And I ended up with a whole box of chips. Those days you had the boxes as your suitcase, and the whole thing was full, and I dished out to the whole class. And yeah, so that was my first thing about money, or my first memory. And I think for me, I think that was the main drive when I wanted to study, to get more money, to earn more money, because I think that money gives you choices and it gives you opportunities. And I wanted to give my children a choice and an opportunity to be able to go and study further, because at that stage we were still, me and my husband, you lived from month to month, so there was a lot of month left over when your money was used up. And when I became a CA, then I had more money left over than what the month was. So it was a big turning point for me. And secondly, also, I know my ex's mom, for the last 8 years, 10 years, she's not been able to support herself. So the kids had to all come together and contribute to her, just for her to survive and for her living expenses. And at that time also, I decided I don't want to do that to my kids. I want to be self-sufficient, and I pray to God that I'm never in that position where I need to ask my children to support me. But then also when I was introduced to the Gig Club, and thanks Jasper, I've realized now that it must also go beyond just my old age and to provide for future generations. So last year also was a big turning point for me, where I think your values again and what your beliefs are also impact your decisions on money. Last year, I would, if you talked about 10 years ago or so, I would never have left my job if I didn't have another job. And when I left last year my job, although I did get a package, you know, it was very insecure. It was totally out of my character for many years. But I think because there were certain values that was more important to me than the security of the job, it was actually not a bad or not a difficult decision to make. And also my belief in God that, you know, I believe this was the right choice for my life, and that He will be there for me. And I think with this lockdown as well, I think most of us has realized that, you know what, you can actually get by with a lot less than if I look at my spending before lockdown and what it is now. So yeah, that's my point of view.
Right.
Thanks.
Let's pop across to Mpolelo.
Hi, good morning to everyone. Herman was speaking about trading wine and cigarette in Germany. I would have been in trouble because I don't smoke, I don't drink, so I'm not sure what I would have done then. But anyway, look, in the early years of life, there wasn't much money at home, so that also meant there's very little talk about money. So my earliest memory where I actually saw a bit more zeros was when I started with my first job. I was 19 then, but what it also meant was that I take over being a breadwinner at home. So from age 19 to age 30, I was literally just taking care of everyone. So I probably only was able to start using money for my own needs when I turned about 29, 30. But even in spite of that, I was fortunate enough to have a mother who used to speak about not spending what you don't have, and also the patience to wait until you have what the money you need to buy the things that you need. So that helped a little bit, in spite of there being little to go around. But one of the other lessons that I learned is that you may have R1 million in the bank, but that's just paper. What's important is what's the value behind that R1 million. I think it goes back to history that money used to be linked to either gold or something of value, but nowadays it's detached. So if I have R1 million and that R1 million is in assets, that's the value behind the R1 million. But if I have R1 million and it's all in all kinds of other things that do not bring value, then that R1 million doesn't mean much. Where I am currently is to learn how to generate more of that money, because like most people, I would like to be in a position where I don't only am able to look after myself, but I can also leave enough for my children and even their children. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Mpolelo. Jennifer, let's pop across to you.
Good morning, everyone. Money was first introduced to me when I was probably age 6, and I was given pocket money, and I had a piggy bank, and so that money went in the piggy bank. And from a very early age, if I was given, like, say 5 pennies, half of them would go in the piggy bank and the other half I'd run along to the sweet shop. So I was told at a very early age that you keep some back, you say that you don't spend it. And it was very controlled. And then one day I did want to spend it on something, so we went to the piggy bank. And I don't know if you know about these piggy banks, they normally have a plug underneath where you can get the money out. But my father hadn't realized this piggy didn't. So the whole thing was china, and I couldn't get in at it without smashing it. So there was no way I was going to smash my piggy bank because he was my friend. So I've got this mentality that I've sort of had through my life, that you don't spend money. And that has always stayed with me. You only spend what you actually need. So if I was buying something, I'd look for, say, something of the best value. I'd never go for luxury because I didn't actually think that that's what you should spend on yourself. And my parents were sort of they were in the war and they didn't spend. So why spend on all these brands and all this type of stuff? And it was just installed within me. So it was very much don't waste. And now in England, I mean, it has just gone to extremes. Although I think this lockdown will stop it, there is just so much waste here. I mean, people just fill the can, even the poorer people buy so much food, buy what food they have and waste what they've got within the fridge. And, you know, they spend on their children the most ridiculous amounts of money. Parties, they get all these presents, they have to have the latest phones, the latest trainers. And I just remember with my son, when he had a party, we kept it to basics. So I've sort of controlled with him and trying to, again, insert values of money within him. And when he's been given money, I've given him enough, but maybe not quite enough so that he has to actually budget to see how far it goes. So I think it's back to, yes, it is installed within your life, and I hadn't really thought about it until you mentioned it today. Your attitude to money, and mine has been one: don't spend, save, and make money work, because money requires wisdom, and that is what you need to install in someone to actually make money work. And once you can almost start something from nothing, you start to get to understand what it is. And without money, there's no freedom. So if you have absolutely nothing, you don't have choices. So a little bit of money just gives you within yourself a choice. What can I do with it? However little you've got. So you starting to actually work with it. So that's money for me.
Right, thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate that. I'm going to pop across to some of our new folk this morning. So let's go across to Helen. Morning, Helen. Welcome. You must be wondering what you've gotten yourself into this morning, but love to hear your thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, so quite a surprise. I have been, morning everyone, by the way. I've been working with the energy of money for a while now, because it's been a theme that has had me stuck in a certain position for a very long time. I can't remember my first memories of money, but I remember what my parents instilled in me about money. Just enough. You can have just enough to be okay. Just enough. Just enough. You may not be able to go on that holiday overseas, but you can go to your sister's place or your mom's place in Cape Town, and you drive there, and it's just enough. You'll have a holiday. It's just enough. So that's where I started. But I've been working with energy and with my own prejudices and my own views. So it's still a work in progress. But particularly in this week, I have had an epiphany and a prejudice of mine that has actually made me sick. My epiphany is women who are bosses or women who are empowered and powerful are not as powerful as men. And this has rocked me because I'm my own boss now. And I don't have the power within me or I'm not as powerful as the guy, next door. So I'm watching all my prejudices as they come up, and yeah, it's an interesting journey. I'd really like to come to the deep understanding within me that money is energy.
Great, thanks, Helen. I think you've just also raised the topic for a future discussions. We'll probably get into that one sometime soon. So welcome again, Pierre. Let's pop across to you.
Caught me by surprise there a little bit. My earliest memory of money really is also receiving pocket money, but my parents wanted to have me and my younger brother on an equal footing at all times. So he was 2 years younger, and he must have been about 4, and I was about 6. And we started receiving pocket money weekly. I would get the silver money, and he'd get the brown money. He didn't realize that there was different values for different coins. And so his piggy bank got full very quickly, and he was very proud of that. At the same time, he didn't have the expenditure that I had. So throughout our childhood, even into teenage years, we received the same amount of pocket money monthly. And that was somewhat unfair, because when I was 12, I got 5 Rand a month. And when he was 12, he got 10 Rand a month. So he was able to purchase things more readily than I could, because I would spend my money according to my age group or whatever. So I was dating girls, for instance, and I'd have to pay for a movie ticket and popcorn and so on, while he wasn't dating and he was receiving the same amount, and so he was able to save. And so that was really the lesson that I learned, is that everyone has a different use of money. And at a given time in their life, that money is only a tool, it's fuel to justify what you're doing. And it's amazing, actually, this morning I was praying. I'm dealing with some clients that, and I've seen over the last 10 or 20 years, I've noticed wealth in families. Now, someone raised the question of being the sandwich generation, where you're looking after children and you're looking after parents. And you go back in history, and that is actually the model that we should all be following. The fact that we save money to be independent of our children one day is actually putting them on the back foot, because you should be investing that money in growth, not in survival. That is probably my outlook. I look forward to my children looking after me, because I'm going to position them to look after me. In other words, I'm dealing with, let me use an example. I've got a client right now who is a self-made, wealthy person. They've come under some economic problems, and one of their business partners actually has generational money. So the 4 brothers, actually, when they come together, this partner, are in a much better position, even though they didn't divide the wealth of the parents. The parents taught them to increase their wealth. And I'm looking at these 2 gentlemen that grew up together, and how they started out more or less at the same place, but how the one, through family growth strategies, has found himself in a far better position when times got difficult to the one that was alone. And somewhere we've got it wrong in the Western culture, I think, in that we accumulate for ourselves. And I think those in all cultures that realize to increase or to grow wealth becomes more important for generational value going forward. That's all I got for that. Hopefully that is so that's just my view, I suppose.
No, that's fantastic. Thanks, Pierre, and welcome to you as well. Pleased to have you on board. Folks, we have past the bottom of the hour. We've got a few folk to still get to, so I'd love to just have a quick comment from the folk who haven't managed to add their comments in, and then we'll wrap up for the day. So let's go across to Nazipo.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ivan. Thank you. I think this morning I just want to listen. I'm just taking it in. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nazipa. Cecile.
Hi. My earliest memories of money was my twin sister and I got pocket money from probably when we were 6 years old. And my mom and dad, although my dad was a government government employed, they were very good with money. My dad always taught us your best asset is to have a house. So the first thing that you are striving to buy when you start working is to actually secure that you have a house that you live in. Oh yeah, and just incidentally, it's so interesting. Jennifer and I have virtually the same values on money, and I don't know her from Adam. So my mom and dad did a budget every month, a written budget, and we all were aware of the budget. And we lived as a family. We lived within the budget. We were not rich. We were not poor. We could all we did things as a family together. And today I still believe in that. Rather, I don't believe in stuff. I don't believe in just buying things for the sake of it. I rather believe in having experiences with my family and my friends, mostly my family. And my mom is 83 and she still has a budget. She's got more money now after retirement than what she's ever had. So that's, to me, it's just a given that you have to make sure that when you retire, and they retired at 59, 60, that you look after, that you've got enough money to look after yourself. When you retire, that you don't have to look into anyone's eyes, because by then your house is paid for. I don't believe in driving fancy cars. I don't buy things to impress other people, and I live a simple life. But from the time that we were 6, when we got our pocket money, I did what Jennifer did. Half of the pocket money went into the saving, probably maybe even 2/3. A third went into saving, and another third went into kind of short-term saving for gifts, because we had to buy gifts for people for Christmas and gifts for people for their birthdays. So my sister and myself clubbed our money together, gig, Jasper, we have our own gig, and we would buy things, presents for people at Christmas. And although I'm one of 4 children, it is the strangest thing. All 4 of us grew up in the very same household. But so when we got our pocket money, we would make sure that we spread the pocket money through the month so that we don't spend it all in one go, Stella, box of chips. But my brother, well, my 2 brothers, one would go and spend all his money on the most expensive sweets. He would buy we would say he'd buy all those foofies. He would buy things that are brand names, and today still he's a brand name person. He would buy, instead of a Kit Kat, that's the cheapest because you can feed 2 people a chocolate because it's got 2 pieces. He would buy a Kinder Joy with a little piece of shit inside and hardly a chocolate. And we could never understand how he could do that. But today he's a chopper pilot and he's still like that. He hasn't changed at all. So from an early age, I learned to budget and to live within your budget and to live a simple life and not to just have stuff. When I got fired, like I told my story, I had no money. So I went out and I worked for a friend at that time, who had a stationer. And 2 months down the line, after I started working for him, his stationery went bankrupt, and there I didn't have a salary either. But what I did is he gave me a lot of stock, a box full of pencils and pens and stuff like that. So I would go out to the nursery schools and the schools around my area with this box, literally with this box of stuff, and say, this is what I have. Can you please, do you want to buy any of this? So I've learned from although no one in our family is in sales, but I've learned from a young age that you can sell things if you need money. So yeah, so I just to get back to it, I budget and I live within my budget, and I actually I'm not spendthrift except, and when I travel, I don't have to eat in every restaurant either. I travel and get the experience rather than buying stuff and presents and bringing that all back home, like a lot of people do.
Thanks, Cecile. Guy, comment from you.
Morning all. Yeah, briefly into 4 areas. When I was growing up, money does not grow on trees. I found in my 30s that money does grow on trees, and in my late 30s, I started to see money as an energy. And then I realized it's not how much money you earn, it's actually what you do with that money. Having said that, I have made some incorrect financial decisions, trust me. But because I see the energy, every month in our family, we go and spoil ourselves. We'll buy something, whether it's something for 50 Rand or something for 200 Rand or for 300 Rand. We will go and reward ourselves at the end of the month for our contribution and our work that we put into whatever we're doing. We're not into giving presents, etc. If we see something and it's within a certain range and we need it, we will get it. But I just see money as an energy, and it's what you put in is what you'll get out. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Guy. Trevor, let's get a final word from you, then I think we will wrap up this morning. We're well over our time for today.
So I've just learned that the postman who called on Cecile's family must have also called on my family, because we are so similar in thinking and almost everything that we do. It's frightening. And just from listening from everyone, I'm so pleased that people have brought the fact that money is actually a crucial to critical priority in almost every, and I used almost, I say it's in everyone's thinking. And I made that little comment, the guy who turned around and said, listen, if you lie about money not being important to you, you'll lie about anything anyway. So I think money is absolutely crucial for people to survive and thrive in this world. So I love it.
Great, thanks, Trev. Lee, final wrap up from you, and then we're done for the day.
Well, thanks everyone. I think we've just scratched the surface, but I really do appreciate that people were sharing their personal stories, because that's really the connection, isn't it? It's not just a theoretical construct, something we have to deal with every day, and who we are as a person, and how we grew up, and what connected with us as a child impacts even today. So thank you for all the stories that you shared, and it's interesting. I'm interested. I'm not asking you to say, but I am interested in, when you awakened that story, what emotions you felt. You know, what were the feelings that arose within you as you started thinking and sharing around that story. And I would like to pull this through a little bit more into Monday, and maybe broaden the subject a little bit more, and maybe go a little bit deeper as well, and explore, is there a difference between money and wealth? And how do we see that play out in our lives? And rich and poor, because then we also now starting to step on very sensitive subjects and areas. So let's, go where angels fear to tread. And so let's continue the conversation on Monday. Yeah, I know Trevor's in. He's the angel. Yeah. And Guy's the pirates, for those of you who don't know.
Great, fantastic.
My pirate tomorrow, on Monday.
Tomorrow, Guy, on Monday. We're taking the weekend off. So fantastic weekend, everybody. I look forward to
Great.
seeing you again on Monday. Go well.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Guys, so